the big question, should you get this bike if you're a beginner? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks so much for stopping by. Consider subscribing if you want to join our community. But today we're on the Honda CB300R. It's the 2019 model, and I'll be chatting about whether or not this is a good beginner bike. So in a nutshell, I really do think that 300 to 500cc seems to be that sweet spot when it comes to beginner bikes, because of the power, you know, being pretty manageable, but at the same time it's not going to be underpowered to the point where like you can't get it up to 100 kilometers an hour or so on the rare occasion that you need to take it on the highway. Granted, it's not for long stretches of time. So with this 286cc motor, honestly, in its class, let's talk about that. It's competing with the Yamaha MT-03, which has a pretty proven track record with the R3's engine. It's the 321cc motor that Yamaha uses. It's a twin, and that's a really nice bike, nice and light, and arguably some people say that Yamaha has that low displacement class on lock. At the same time, Kawasaki has come out with the Z400, which is also the same engine used in the Kawasaki Ninja 400. The Kawasaki Ninja 250 was really going head to head against the Honda CBR250 and CBR300. On the CB300, I'm going to start critiquing it a little bit. I do really like the bike. It's so unique. It's so light. It's the lightest in its class. Oh, and the brakes are really good too. It's in the class, it's the only one with a single cylinder. I think it sounds pretty good. I believe the stock exhaust is nice on its own. I've got the Akropovich carbon slip-on this model here. I think it sounds pretty good. It's nice and grumbly, but for extended riding for long periods of time, I'm not sure if I would really want to take this Akropovich over the stock exhaust. In terms of a beginner bike, this seat height is actually pretty high. It's a little over 31 inches. Z400 from Kawasaki and Yamaha's MT-03, those are under 31 inches. Doesn't sound like a huge difference, but if you're anywhere under 5'7", those little details can matter a lot. So that is something to consider. This display I really like at first glance. A lot of dark colors with the white font, but it's incredibly hard to see in sunny days like this, especially if you wear tinted shields like I do pretty much all the time, or even sunglasses. It makes it a little bit tricky to see. In addition to that, the display doesn't have a gear position indicator, which I think in this day and age for beginners, that's something that's really helpful. It's just, I mean, it's a nice to have. It's not an absolute necessity, but when you look at the competition with the Yamaha and the Kawasaki, those are two other things that I think those other bikes win. In terms of ergonomics, you know, I said the seat height is a bit high. Overall, I'm in a pretty good position here. It's very comfortable. It's almost like an aggressive dual sport, not speaking in terms of the beginner bike segment for street riding. I would almost think of this as like Honda's take on a very street-oriented CRF 300L Supermoto. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but when I was thinking about this bike and what I should do with it, I believe in India they have a 300 Scrambler kit for this motorcycle, so that was really interesting. I really wish that Honda came out with a hybrid between the CRF 300 and this bike, since it's the same engine. You know, a little bit of a more modern classic take on it. I don't think it would be that hard, honestly, with this rounded headlight here up at the front. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, if it's so light, it really does feel like a dual sport. Or in other videos I mentioned it's almost like a big Grom. Something I did notice is right under the temperature gauge, you have the side stand indicator, so it lets you know if that's down. I'll be honest, it's so small that I could barely notice it, and I really just forget that it's there sometimes, so I don't know how useful that even is. It's also because it's so dim down here and it's right in the bottom corner, so it makes it a little bit hard to see. So as I mentioned, there isn't a gear position indicator, but Honda did throw in a shift light at the top, a white little LED light. Once you get high up in the revs, around 7,000 or higher, they'll start blinking and telling you to shift, which is kind of fun, but honestly, I don't find myself glancing down when I'm accelerating anyways. I'm just focused on the road. I noticed when I took it on the highway, I was going about 120 kilometers an hour. The bike already ran out of gears. Trying to get that shift light to come on. I think it did once. Yeah, on the highway, when I was going about 120, I noticed that the light would just start blinking, but I was already out of gear, so I couldn't do anything about it. And just cruising along, I had a couple exits to go, and this light on my dash just kept blinking, so that kind of bothered me. I don't know why Honda didn't really think about removing that for top gear, because you've really got nowhere to go. That's something that was a little bit annoying for me, but other than that, I think this is a fantastic motorcycle. The big question, should you get this bike if you're a beginner? Totally. Like, being kind of in the middle of the pack, you know, between something like a 125cc, like if you start on a Grom, you're really limited to urban riding and no highways. And then with the 500, I don't think it would be too difficult to start on a CBR 500 or a Rebel 500. The trade-off is that those are a little bit heavier. With that being said though, you might not outgrow those bikes as fast as you would with a 125 or a 300. But the odd thing for me is actually the 300cc, in my opinion, you are more likely to outgrow than the 125. And I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. With the Grom, it's the best second bike to have if you have anything over 500, whereas with a 300 and a 500 there's not much of a difference. And with a 300 you're getting that decent amount of power already, so once you get used to it per se, I don't believe that being able to go fast on a bike in a straight line is necessarily getting used to it. I think learners should spend a little bit more time, you know, getting to know their bike in the corners and low speed maneuvers. But yeah, 300 is a really nice middle ground, mostly in the city, and then the times that you're on the highway, it's for, let's say, maximum 30 minutes at a time. Over 100 kilometers an hour, I wouldn't say that this bike is that comfortable. It'll be comfortable anywhere from 90 kilometers an hour and below. If you're in the market for this bike, definitely recommend checking out the MT-03 and the Z400. Make sure you try and actually get to a dealership, or if you're buying used, book a viewing so that you can actually get a chance to sit on the bike, because you know, you can do all the research in the world online, but there's no replacement for seeing a bike in person and just seeing how it makes you feel as you sit on it. Even if you can't get a test ride, the ergonomics are so important. Comparables, like I said, Z400, check it out, MT-03 from Yamaha, and then even if you want the KTM 390 Duke, if you want to go European, Husqvarna has the 401, I believe. That's essentially, you know, in KTM territory. So just something to consider. Yeah, until next time, let me know in the comments below what you think of the CB300R. If you're in the market for a beginner bike, also let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to help you with your buying decision-making process. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace. I think in terms of look, this bike is really unique. You know, that single headlight at the front. There it is. So that's what it looks like. Overall, fantastic looking bike. Really good package. I think on the performance side, in terms of just handling and not necessarily power, We really got a winner here. Yeah, it's got a bit of a, they call it Neo Sports Cafe look, whereas the Kawasaki and the Yamaha have that more modern, kind of futuristic, sporty look. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just down to personal preference, whatever you'd like. The bike is so dirty right now. We'll wrap it up here. Cheers.